Tonight on The Buzz, we are looking at the current state of storage, and there are big surprises coming. We start, though, with NAB Insight. Jim Malcolm, General Manager for North America for HumanEyes, talks about improving diversity in immersive media. In fact, they're hosting an event at NAB in April to encourage more women and minorities to create immersive experiences. Next, we shift to storage with Tom Coughlin, president of Coughlin and Associates, setting the scene for emerging new storage technology that we'll hear more about at NAB. Faster storage, yes, but even more intriguing is permanent storage that's so fast it could replace RAM. Next, Larry O'Connor, CEO of OWC, explains new storage technology trends that we might see at NAB that relate to direct attached storage. One of the questions I'm very curious about is whether RAIDs are about to be replaced by something even faster. Next, Sam Mestman, president of LumaForge, showcases new trends in shared storage that can improve the workflow of workgroups. What questions do you need to ask when considering adding shared storage to your editing workflow? Next, Jordan Winkelman, solutions architect for Quantum, showcases their newest storage systems built around NVMe, a new storage architecture that is far, far faster than any single device we've worked with before. All this, plus James DeRuvo with this week's doddleNEWS update. The buzz starts now.
Since the dawn of digital filmmaking.
Authoritative.
One show serves a worldwide network of media professionals.
Current.
Uniting industry experts.
Production.
Filmmakers.
Post-production.
And content creators around the planet.
Distribution.
From the media capital of the world in Los Angeles, California, the Digital Production Buzz goes live now.
Welcome to the Digital Production Buzz, the world's longest-running podcast for the creative content industry, covering media production, post-production, and marketing around the world. Hi, my name is Larry Jordan. NAB Insight is our behind-the-scenes look at the upcoming NAB show. We're all familiar with the trade show itself, but there is a lot more going on that you may not know about. NAB Insight helps you plan your trip to make the most of what's available. Tonight, Jim Malcolm, General Manager for North America for HumanEyes, describes an event they're hosting at NAB seeking to get more women and minorities involved in creating interactive, immersive experiences. For too long, most media has been created by men. However, all of us have interesting stories to tell or experiences to share. I'm looking forward to chatting with Jim to learn more about what he's planning. By the way, if you enjoy The Buzz, please give us a positive rating and review in the iTunes store. We appreciate your support to help us grow our audience. And now it's time for our weekly doddleNEWS update with James DeRuvo. Hello, James. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, Larry.
So what do we got that's news this week?
This last weekend was the Oscars, and I remember last week we did a story about how Airy was dominant in most of the Oscar nominations for Best Picture this year, with the exception of documentaries. When you get into documentaries, the camera that's dominant are Canon cameras, which I found very interesting. Canon cameras were used in every single documentary nominated at the Academy Awards, mostly the C300 Mark II and the Canon 5D Mark III.
What makes Canon so popular?
When you look at the lower cost of the Canon Cinema EOS platform, its ergonomic, but especially its compact design, makes it a lot of sense for documentarians who would rather shoot out in the field, especially when you look at the Oscar winner this year for Best Documentary, Free Solo. It was about a free climber climbing sheer rock faces of mountains all around the world. And when you're the poor cameraman that has to follow him up the mountainside, it makes sense that you want to keep yourself as nimble as possible. And that's what that Cinema EOS C300 lets you do. It makes a lot of sense to me.
So Airy got the features and Canon got the documentaries.
Yeah.
Well, we've had a lot of camera news recently, so do you have something different this week for our second story?
No, I have a rather depressing story, quite frankly. YouTube's copyright system, honestly, I think it's irretrievably broken, as it's now being used by blackmailers to blackmail content creators to pay them money to remove copyright strikes. YouTube content creators are complaining that they are being hit with multiple copyright strikes by phantom users who then contact them demanding money be paid to them via Bitcoin or PayPal. YouTube's appeals process also opens the creator up to further harassment, as they have to provide contact information that the blackmailer can see and exploit. And all the monetization and counter notification options are removed during the copyright claim process, so there's very little a content creator can do. They can appeal, but most of them are not comfortable in doing so.
So they're hit with a false claim for copyright infringement. And during the processing of that false claim, the YouTuber loses the ability to make money on their video.
Yeah, and the videos are just taken down, just automatically taken down.
YouTube's laboring under a host of problems recently. What's going on?
I think it's just a case of they're just too big. They're a victim of their own success, really. Since YouTube has changed their monetization policies in order to please advertisers, the whole adpocalypse issue that came about last year, these channels have to work a lot harder to reach an arbitrary plateau. The plateau is 4,000 viewing hours a year, 10,000 subscribers, and 10,000 views in a year. And you have to renew that every single year in order to qualify for monetization. So smaller channels don't have to worry about a lot of stuff because they're not making any money. But those that are right on the cusp who just qualified are a prime target for these blackmailers. The bigger top YouTube channels like ABC and Jimmy Kimmel and The Tonight Show and those, they don't have to worry about that. They have concierge services through YouTube directly. They can just pick up the phone, make a call if there's a problem, and it gets handled. But these smaller guys, the guys somewhere in the middle, they just make the requirements. They're just starting to make money, and then they get hit with copyright claims by blackmailers. And YouTube is very hesitant to help because they don't want to come down as ruling against a copyright claimant who may be legitimate, even though most of the time they're not. It's a really unfortunate situation, and I honestly think it's broken and it can't be fixed.
You're right. That's depressing. So let's move on to our third story. What you got for that?
Well, I have a religious debate for you.
Go for it.
The big question being presented this week is, are ISO ratings in cameras totally faked? A professional photographer named Tony Northrup took to YouTube this week to make the case that camera ISO ratings are completely fake. They're just made up. He says that today's digital image sensors are largely ISO agnostic, and you can just adjust your lower ISO image in post up to 5 stops, even when it's completely in darkened light, and it will look nearly identical to something that's shot at a higher ISO. He also says that camera ISO ratings are wildly all over the place, not only from manufacturer to manufacturer, but sometimes from model to model inside of a manufacturer. So it's a very compelling case on YouTube about it, and it's starting to cause photographers to really debate it online. I do think that it is worth talking about, and it's something that camera companies could largely solve by just being more transparent in how they give us these ISO ratings. They just don't tell us, they just make it up.
What other stories are you working on for this week?
Well, other stories we're following this week include Adobe fixes audio issues in a Premiere that could cause speakers in your MacBook Pro to blow out. Are action cameras hitting a feature plateau? And we have great new hardware and software reviews as well.
And where can we go on the web to follow these and all the other stories that you and your team are covering?
All these stories and more can be found at doddleNEWS.com.
And James DeRuvo is the editor-in-chief of DoddleNEWS and joins us every week. I'll see you next Thursday.
See you next week.
Jim Malcolm is the General Manager for North America for HumanEyes Technologies. He's responsible for managing the Views VR camera product ecosystem, and he also sits on the board of directors for the Consumer Technology Association and is a past president of the Imaging Alliance. Hello, Jim. Welcome.
Hi, Larry. How are you today?
I am doing great because I'm looking forward to our conversation. In the past, you and I have talked about the VR products that HumanEyes creates, but tonight on our NAB Insight segment, I want to learn more about what you personally are doing at NAB in April. I understand you're speaking at the conference. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm not only going to speak, I'll not only be on the stage myself speaking, but what we're trying to do right now is really showcase some real use case scenarios in virtual reality, and right frankly, showcase some of the women in technology. So we'll be on stage with a program called Teaching Students the Power of and the Future of VR, and I'll share the stage with a lady by the name of Kathleen Johnson.
Well, why did you pick this subject?
Well, there's obviously a lot going on in technology right now, a lot happening in virtual reality. And I think that when I start looking at a lot of the amazing storytellers that are out there, there's a lot of women out there that are they're maybe underrepresented or they don't often get a stage. So we thought this would be a great platform to showcase Kathleen and the work that she's doing with the Gaylord College at the University of Oklahoma.
Well, is this going to be presented in your booth or is it presented somewhere else?
So it's actually somewhere else. We are going to hold this event in the North Hall at the Las Vegas Convention Center. There is something called the Innovation Theater there. So we'll be in the Innovation Theater, North Hall, Las Vegas Convention Center.
Well, give me an example of what a typical presentation would be. I know that you're still in flux, but how have you got it sketched in your mind?
Yep. So we'll be on stage for about 45 minutes, and we're going to obviously talk about what the University of Oklahoma is doing to bring virtual reality to life. So that's not just the computer programming side of things, but the ability to take linear video and bring it in. And through one of those programs, I think we'll showcase and show the journalism school and the efforts that they're doing with sending students to Washington, D.C. to report on government issues in virtual reality.
What was it that got you connected to the University of Oklahoma in the first place?
So they're one of the heavy users of the Views XR cameras, or excuse me, Views VR cameras, and they've been building a pretty good portfolio of student work, and largely because the Views camera is so simple to use, they can put it in the hands of a student, have them run out and shoot, and they can come back and produce all within one class.
You're going to be doing VR at the show itself or just talking about it?
So at the event itself, the talk, we're going to be talking about it. However, another group of us are going to be over running some events or daily workshops that we're going to hold over at the Wynn Hotel. And at these, we're going to solicit small groups of between 6 and 8 students. And we'll hold a couple sessions each day. We'll go out and film around the hotel and then come back and stitch and make a final piece in virtual reality.
So you're going to be dashing between the North Hall to do the presentations, the Wynn Hotel to do the VR stuff, and in your booth to be able to showcase the final result. You are going to wear yourself out.
Yeah, well, what's a good thing about NAB is it's similar to other trade shows in Vegas. Just wear nice shoes or comfortable shoes. I guess they don't have to be nice. They have to be comfortable.
Very true. The comfortable part is the most important. If you were to sketch a goal for what you'd like your presentations and talks to accomplish, what would it be?
It's really about putting the role of VR video, whether that's 360 fully immersive or VR 180 stereo, back into the minds of creators. For a while, the VR video component kind of got pushed back on the back burner because maybe it wasn't the latest and greatest shiny thing. But now with some advances in things like Unity and Unreal, you can take linear video and make non-linear experiences out of that in a really immersive and complete VR project.
For people that want to attend, what do they have to do? Do they have to join the conference, or how can they attend your talk?
So the talk itself does require you to have a badge, so you have to have access to the NAB. So any of the badge holders, you can get in to that. Because the workshops are being held off the show floor because they're at the hotel, we can also invite some other members that maybe are not badged for the NAB floor itself.
For people that want to participate in the event at the Wynn, how do they sign up?
So they're going to have to hold their breath just a little bit. I don't have the sign-up sheets done yet, but we'll get it all posted on views.camera. That's VUZE.camera. And we'll have links there as well as our Facebook and other social media platforms for people to come and sign up.
And as long as I'm making you feel guilty, when are you going to post the information about the North Hall events?
Thanks for that, guilty. You know what? My goal is to get that done by Monday. How's that sound? Well, I'll try to get it done sooner, but with my programmer, I think that it's going to be Monday before we get that up.
That sounds like a plan. So the North Hall is going to occur multiple times each day or once a day on multiple days across the event of NAB?
Actually, that just happens once, and that's going to be on April 9th at
Tuesday.
10:30 a.m. So it is appointment. It is an appointment-type program that you're going to want to get to. April 9th, 10:30 a.m., North Hall of the Las Vegas Convention Center in the Innovation Theater.
And on Monday, when you've got this posted to the website, where can people go on the web to learn more?
So again, it's going to be www.viewze.camera.
That is not .com. That's VUZE.camera, views.camera. And Jim Malcolm is the General Manager for North America for HumanEyes technology and the driving force behind the Views VR camera ecosystem. Jim, thanks for joining us today. I wish you great success and get this posted quickly because I think a lot of people would like to sign up.
I will indeed. Thanks for the reminder.
You take care. Have a busy weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
You bet. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Join the digital production buzz at the 2019 NAB show in Las Vegas, Nevada. Starting Monday, April 8th, Larry Jordan and the Buzz team are taking their microphones on the road to cover the latest news and trends from the largest media show in the world. Every hour of every day, The Buzz is live on the trade show floor, creating 27 new shows in 4 days. More than 100 interviews with key industry leaders. The Buzz has webcast directly from NAB for 11 years, with legendary coverage that's heard in more than 195 countries around the world. If you're attending the show, visit us at booth SL10527 and say hello, or join us live every day of the show at nabshowbuzz.com. Join us as The Buzz covers NAB 2019 live at nabshowbuzz.com.
Tom Coughlin is a Silicon Valley consultant, a storage analyst, and a fellow of the IEEE, as well as the organizer of the annual Storage Visions and Creative Storage conferences. Hello, Tom. Welcome back.
Hi, Larry. Thank you.
How would you describe what Coughlin and Associates does?
Coughlin Associates is a firm I started around 2000. We've been putting on some events. You mentioned Creative Storage. Storage Visions are some of those events, and we were chair of the Flash Memory Summit for 10 years. We do market and technology analysis. In fact, there's an annual report on digital storage in media and entertainment, and also a survey of media and entertainment professionals on the use of storage that partially uses some of that survey data. In addition, I do consulting of all different sorts on digital storage technologies and applications, all manner of things from technical things to due diligence for investors and things of that sort.
What first got you interested in storage?
So I first got interested in storage actually in college. I had a bachelor's degree in physics, and I was working at a company, this is up in Minneapolis, and they had a magnetic sensor that I was working on. It was a thin film device, and I needed to make some measurements, some magnetic measurements. There's a fellow at the University of Minnesota, Professor Jack Judy, and he had some measurement equipment. I was able to go there and use that, and I met him, and I thought he was a pretty cool guy. He was working on magnetic recording technologies, particularly with thin film magnetic recording technology. So I got initially into magnetic recording. I worked on the heads and media, for instance, that work in hard disk drives and tapes and even floppy disks back in the day. So my initial activities in storage were in actually making the devices on which you store things on. And I've kept up with what's been going on in the industry, both in the system level and software and device level since then.
I want to ask you about new technology, but before I do, this report on media and entertainment intrigues me. What are you learning about the storage needs in media and entertainment?
Media and entertainment, actually, all the different elements in the workflow may have somewhat different requirements, whether it's capturing content on camera or doing post-production work, editing and post-production, distributing content or archiving it. They have different characteristics, different sort of storage devices may be used for it. And it's been fascinating to see the development of those technologies. Files are getting larger because the resolutions are going up. 4K is very common. There's 8K out there. There's even people doing 16K video work nowadays. And if you do that 360, it gets to be pretty large files. At the same time people are doing that, the amount of storage is growing much faster than the budgets for storage, and therefore people have had to develop very clever ways of handling content and storing it. So we have a great variety of different types of storage technologies that are out there now that include the cloud storage, for people keeping things for collaboration or even for long-term retention. A fair amount of that, actually, more in the media and entertainment industry. And that may be hard disk drives, maybe flash even, or even possibly tape being used there. We also, in the editing space, we're seeing a move. I think a lot of that's been hard disk drive based traditionally, but some of the data rates required for some of these new media, especially do multi streams of content at the same time, is actually moving to flash memory based devices, and especially some of the new flash interfaces on solid state drives. An example of that is the NVMe non-volatile memory express interface.
One of the things that's exciting in our industry is that we've got NAB coming up in a couple of months. What new technology or trends are you expecting at NAB?
So I'm expecting, of course, a growth in storage on the cloud and things people are doing in cloud-based storage, which means that in connected data centers, there's very interesting things that are going on in terms of, as I mentioned before, the solid state storage developed again to be more important in these applications. I think we're going to see more of that at the NAB. And I think in the solid state storage like SSDs, there's a movement to the NVMe protocol versus the SAS and SATA because it's built around the capabilities of solid state and persistent memory technologies and allows you to get their internal performance, to get more of that to the outside where the user can actually use it versus SATA and SAS.
Is NVMe a communications protocol like SAS, or is it a storage object itself?
It's more a protocol for how do you handle data. There's a group in SNIA that's been working on a programming model, and NVMe, I think, is important elements in that is the movement towards how do I treat storage more like memory. You might see some of this at the NAB about use of remote memory, direct memory access in a storage device, perhaps with NVMe devices in there, part of the system that allows you to treat memory in another box or another place like it's your memory. And I've heard some really fascinating things that are being done with that may have some media and entertainment applications. So there's enormous changes going on in terms of both the direct attached storage capabilities that people have, and also the shared storage capabilities. And that also goes, of course, into the hyperscale and the cloud guys as well. There also is a lot of work going on. In addition to the traditional storage vendors, there's a lot of folks that are working on more open type systems with a lot of software defined and more generic hardware. Exciting times in storage. There's a whole lot going on. There's a lot of stuff going on. Memory and storage is, I think, a very exciting area. The other thing is possibly use of emerging memories for media stuff. Emerging memory? What's that? Things like magnetic random access memory, resistive random access memory, a whole bunch of non-volatile memory technologies that are looking to replace volatile memory like SRAM and DRAM in computing systems. Which means that the memory wouldn't disappear when the computer gets shut down. That's right. Or you can turn the computer off and the memory's still there. So you can save energy, you don't lose the data. On the other hand, also, if you want to get rid of the data, you have to intentionally do that. So there's some fascinating things going on that I think will offer a great variety of options for people working and needing storage in the media and entertainment space for all different parts of the workflow. We're going to talk to Larry O'Connor right after you, learning about direct attached storage. You bet. And we'll talk to Sam Mestman about shared storage after we get done with Larry. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about
how NVMe is going to be used. Are we looking to have NVMe, which is, again, a protocol, not an object? Are we looking to have that replace SSDs, or is it going to replace RAIDs, or is it going to be something totally different?
It's a little more complicated than that. The NVMe interface itself is going to be a new solid-state drive type interface, which can come in many different form factors and many different physical connections, but it's going to replace SAS and SATA eventually. Right now, it's more expensive, but because of the additional performance that it gives and the commitment that the storage industry has made to this technology, I think its costs are going to go down very fast, and it's going to eventually replace, for a lot of new storage, the SATA and SAS traditional storage systems. In fact, there's even some talk about building hard drive boxes that would have an NVMe interface. I think Western Digital introduced a product like that last year as part of some NVMe work they were doing. And the other side of it is that the NVMe protocol, there's developed technologies for carrying that over a fabric, for instance, a fiber channel or InfiniBand type of fabrics. And more recently, and this is probably going to be the most exciting, with Ethernet type fabrics, so with IP-based systems. There's a lot of work going into creating IP-based storage systems that have that are using NVMe over fabric, and the fabric in that case being the Ethernet connectivity. And that could be part actually of a digital workflows like the SMPTE Ethernet-based workflows being promoted now and becoming very popular in many elements of the media and entertainment industry.
Recently, Quantum announced a new product which is NVMe-based, and a little later in the show we're going to be talking with Jordan Winkelman, who is a solutions architect for Quantum, to learn more about what this box can do.
Excellent.
I think you're right. We're seeing some significant changes in storage technology and especially in speeds. For people that want to learn more about what's happening in storage or purchase your media and entertainment report, where can they go on the web?
So you can find information on that in what's called the Tech Papers section of the TomCoughlin.com webpage, and that's Coughlin.
And TomCoughlin.com is the website, and Tom Coughlin himself is the voice you've been listening to, a Silicon Valley consultant and storage analyst and president of Coughlin & Associates. Tom, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome, Larry. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Larry O'Connor is the founder and CEO of Otherworld Computing, which we all know as OWC. He founded it in 1988 and is both a reseller and a developer, supporting all things Mac for more than 30 years. Hello, Larry. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Larry. Always a pleasure.
Well, it's always fun talking to you because every time I do, I learn something, and I suspect that's going to be the case tonight as well. In the last segment, we heard Tom Coughlin give us an overview of new storage technology with an eye toward trends coming out at NAB. From your perspective, focusing more on direct attached storage, what trends are you expecting at NAB this year?
Just bigger, faster, and more need for it. That's probably in the nutshell.
Bigger, faster, and more. Well, let's pick faster, because that's something we're reflecting on. What's going to make us faster?
Well, I'll tell you, Flash, just the general integration and availability and cost of Flash, number one, is going to certainly really crank up its presence and use in these workflows. And just the technology itself it's unbelievable how fast you can access storage through the likes of Thunderbolt, and you don't even have to have something fancy internal. You can plug things in with a copper cable and achieve speeds that weren't even imaginable a decade ago.
Are you seeing speed changes due to faster protocols, or are you seeing the hardware itself getting faster?
Well, the hardware has to get faster, of course, to take advantage of the protocols, but the interfaces, we've gone to PCI 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0 on the blocks, and each time that we rev the PCI interface, we're doubling the bandwidth per channel. And Thunderbolt, of course, gives us an extension to PCIe. And for PCIe, effectively, that's a path straight to the heart of the computer. Now, it used to be you go through FireWire, which actually was really efficient. You use USB, you had SATA, you had all these layers. And now we have these interfaces that let us effectively interface that storage right with the CPU, right with the system. And it's, for lack of a better term, there's nothing between you and that superhighway, and everything operates But no, maximum efficiency.
Well,
and you don't even have to think about how it all works because you can just plug it in. It's a miracle of technology. It just works.
Well, I suspect somebody on your team is thinking a lot about how to make it work, but from our end, we just plug it in. One of the things that Tom was talking about is a new storage protocol called NVMe, which stands for Non-Volatile Memory Express. How does that fit into your vision for locally attached storage? Is it something that applies, or is it not relevant?
We actually introduced our first NVMe flash drive just about a year and a half ago. And it absolutely applies, and it opens the doors. If you go back to the way storage was, you may use a PCI interface to connect the storage, but there was a controller, something in between the processor and that storage, effectively negotiating and handling the transaction. With flash, which is effectively memory in its own right, you have something that's extremely fast, and anything you can do to take away barriers between it and the processor, that means a far better, more, how should we say, frictionless experience in terms of the CPU manipulating data that you're working on a project with. It's trying to break it down, but it's I guess it's instead of having a funnel where everything has to go into this funnel and work its way through, you basically have a wide open pipe and maximum performance. The maximum performance is available to what's interfaced with it. The CPU can take direct advantage of. There's also a simplified command set in terms of there's less translation. I mean, it's almost stepping from, instead of having an operating language over binary, coding in machine language.
Are you seeing is there the potential that NVMe is so fast that it would replace a RAID? Because RAID is essentially taking slower devices and ganging them together for greater storage capacity and greater performance. But NVMe has the potential for vastly greater performance than any RAID.
It does, but you're still, you take a couple, I keep saying you take a couple steps back, but you still have limitations of the actual hardware, the flash demand technology itself. And the nice thing with NVMe, you can actually, it's channelized. And with PCIe, you have effectively lanes to the processor. So whether you're raiding, it's really just great parallelization. So you can effectively say, yes, you can eliminate the need for RAID, but there's still, I won't say it's one and the same because it's not. But I guess I'll just answer that by saying yes and no.
The infamous "it depends" answer. Yes. Another issue that came up this week regarding storage is the renaming of USB that the USB naming committee decided to go through. Do you have?
What an absolute! Really going to get started on that?
Well, I was going to ask if you had an opinion. So, what's your opinion?
They already really confused the world with the whole 3.1 and Gen 1, Gen 2, and now everything's just suddenly going to be 3.2. Because that's going to just make all the sense in the world to everybody. We had a conversation about this yesterday internally. Look at the new 3.2, and of course later we're going to be 4. I like where it's going into a unified interface, effectively, where USB 4.0 and Thunderbolt will share the same. If it's USB 4.0 or Thunderbolt, you'll be able to plug the same device, etc. But the naming, people want to look at a cable, look at an interface, and know that plugs into their computer and it works. And the naming, it was just using 3.1 was already going to confuse. I don't think most people even understand what 3.1 is. They do understand. The people who do understand, really don't need the renaming. The people who don't understand, you can tell them it's 5 gigabits, 10 gigabits, 20 gigabits, and that doesn't mean a whole lot to them other than, does that connector plug into my computer?
It struck me as one of the more stupid decisions I've ever heard of. So I'm on your side that it's not going to help anybody except people who already know the answer.
That's about right.
One other thought real quick. One of the things that you guys do is soft RAID. And one of the issues I ran into with SoftRAID is I had to access a SoftRAID, which is a RAID device that's done in software rather than hardware, is access a RAID device which is several years old and the drivers were out of date. If we're using SoftRAID, do we need to worry about it for archiving purposes?
Well, the nice thing is you can go. It's going backwards is depending upon the RAID level, could be a challenge, but going forwards, not so much. The driver, first off, if you use a later version of SoftRAID, it's an easy update. It takes care of that. But the compatibility, the backwards compatibility is extremely strong with SoftRAID. So my simple answer would be no. And the nice thing about SoftRAID for archiving, because it's software, there's nothing proprietary. It's very open. The driver is built into the OS. So in terms of a future OS version being able to access a prior SoftRAID volume, that's not an issue, and you never have to worry about a proprietary hardware chipset going out and not being available to effectively put your drives back into. With the hardware RAID, if you pull those drives out and move it to even the same brand RAID a few years down the road, in addition to the fact you probably blow your RAID volume, the compatibility doesn't necessarily move around. And we run into this a lot with data recovery houses because they are always looking for some of the older RAID boxes when they have to do a special recovery. You don't have that challenge with SoftRAID.
So if I've got an older device and I've got it on the shelf for a bit just because it's holding media, if the driver becomes out of date, when the newer version looks back at the older version, it'll bring the older version back up to speed.
Correct.
Cool. I was worried about that, and I figured I should ask the source. Larry, for people that need more information about the products that you're going to be doing at NAB or any of your other products, where can they go on the web?
You can visit us at owc.com and maxsales.com, and you can learn all about SoftRAID, Media 4, a new Akitio group, and, of course, all the great things that OWC and Max Sales has been bringing the world for all these years.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what your new toys are in NAB in just a couple months, and I look forward to seeing you in Las Vegas when the time comes. You take care, and thanks for your time tonight.
Hey, my pleasure, Larry. Have a great
Bye-bye. Sam Mestman is the president of LumaForge, a company that makes server-based hardware that is optimized for media editing. He's also the founder of We Make Movies, a Los Angeles-based independent film community. Hello, Sam. Welcome back.
Hey, Larry. Thanks for having me.
Sam, before we get into talking specifically about storage, how would you define LumaForge?
So LumaForge, I think at its core, is a workflow company. We set out to make life easier for post-production professionals. And the biggest way that we realized that we could do that from the very beginning was to go after the shared storage market and make something simple, approachable, that even an editor like me could use. That's really where it came from. Now we are focused on making life easier for video teams everywhere with our Jellyfish and ShareStation products.
Earlier in the show, we heard from Tom Coughlin, who set the scene for storage technology, and Larry O'Connor looking at direct attach storage. Since LumaForge focuses on shared storage, from your perspective, what trends are you expecting at NAB regarding shared storage?
In terms of NAB, I think, look, the world is getting more connected. Collaboration is becoming more and more important. And the way that people connect to their assets visually, you're seeing more and more people even becoming aware of what shared storage is at this point. It used to sort of be this thing that certain people had, or you would have the same network that sort of worked for everybody. But dedicated storage for media and entertainment, as we see more and more smaller video teams prop up across the world, this is now becoming a thing that is becoming very important to people. And the reason it's becoming so important is because now every place you go is building its own internal movie studio, and now it needs to manage all of these assets internally. And the way that works with MAMs and some of these other things, these are some of the big challenges that we're sort of working with our clients on.
LumaForge specializes in shared storage, but there's huge companies, I'm thinking QNet and Synology, that create shared storage. Why does LumaForge exist?
What it really comes down to, it's basically a by filmmakers for filmmakers sort of thing. Being diplomatic, the reality of the situation is none of these other companies are designing things purely for media and entertainment and for the demands that a video team will really put its system through. We're there because there was a void, and if those solutions were really truly working for our customers, we would not have been able to enter the market. But the truth of the matter is, in a lot of those situations, people might have one of those and they're coming to us because they know they need something that actually works.
Well, clearly, companies like QNAP and Synology are reputable companies. I don't mean to say otherwise. But what are the challenges of having media on shared storage?
Oh, they make great products. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. But video specifically has certain demands that you don't really understand. It's not like passing PDFs or songs or photos around. You actually need something that has a minimal amount of latency, will not cause a beach ball when you push the space bar, and allows you to touch lots of things very quickly in your timeline and move that around. Those are all large files, and the responsiveness of that experience and being able to play 4K media across multiple machines, you need something that is a really good air traffic controller that allows all of your team's needs to sort of be served coming in and out, and you need optimized hardware for that.
I've had the pleasure of working with a variety of servers. Jellyfish is one of them. And I keep coming across terms like SMB and AFP. What are these?
Well, those are two terms that I never wanted to learn either. But what I can tell you is they are networking protocols. They're basically languages for networking that your computer will understand. AFP is Apple's old version. I believe it's Apple File Protocol or something. But the bottom line is it's being pretty much removed as a standard. So it's graduating outwards, whereas SMB is now Apple's preferred networking standard, along with NFS, actually, which is very well supported. And those have pluses and minuses depending on what you're doing, which we make recommendations to our customers all the time about. And quite frankly, is all a ton of stuff that I never wanted to learn, but now I know, and I pass on to others to save them hopefully a bunch of time.
So for people that have questions about which to pick, there's advice on LumaForge's website in terms of which protocol is the best?
Yeah, if you reach out to us, we've got a whole little graph on mentioning which one to use. In terms of SMB, typically Adobe plays very well with SMB, so Adobe apps, and Final Cut libraries perform best on NFS. So that's something to consider. Resolve plays well on both. If you need to go cross-platform, you might be SMB with Windows, so Mac and Windows and SMB play well together, whereas Mac and Linux play better on NFS. So there's lots of ins and outs, but we have a little chart that you can check out, so don't hesitate to reach out.
There's no one simple solution, is there?
I guess it's a double-edged sword. If there was, we wouldn't exist. And if there wasn't, everyone's life would be a lot easier.
By the way, congratulations on the news that your gear is now being sold in Apple stores. That's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, thank you.
What does that tell you about the need for high-performance storage into the mass market?
And I think what it tells you is that the pro video market and video as a medium is exploding. Everybody is doing it now. It's required if you have a business to have high quality video, and the deliverables are exploding, and the assets that are required and the amount that are coming in escalating into 4K. So at a certain point, when all of that happens, you need something that's going to manage that in particular. And I think it's very clear the fact that it's now present on the Apple Store and things like that is there is a need to be served. And I think we feel very privileged to be the company that Apple went with.
What should we be thinking about when we're planning to add shared storage to our editing workflow?
Number one, who's going to be managing it? And what is the architecture that you need to put in? And what is your workflow going to be? We build stuff that's really easy and approachable for somebody as dumb as me to use. So the question you should ask for yourself first, is it going to be you who's integrating this stuff, or are you going to have an IT person that's dedicated to this, who's going to manage some of the networking? What's the relationship to the hardware going to be like, and adjust accordingly? Additionally, what is your workflow, and can you get a demo of your workflow on whatever solution it is prior to getting it? I would recommend that you do so.
Sam, I just read about something called Faster Together. What's this?
We've been doing this the last couple of years, once on the show floor and once across the street. It's a bunch of sort of TED Talk style presentations. But then we found out that the Super Meet was not going to be happening this year. And we sort of talked to Michael Horton and we stepped in and we're like, there has to be a cool event on a Tuesday night that people can go to that's community focused, that's going to put on great presentations. So we decided, instead of doing what we did on the show floor with all these presentations, we decided to sort of pick up the mantle of the Super Meet and give the community a show that we're really, really excited about. And we wanted to make it focused back on the users and a little bit less of the technology dog and pony shows. So everything you see is going to be from a user perspective. And we've got some really, really cool presentations coming up. It's going to be a blast, honestly. And we've got Michael Horton involved, and it's going to be at the Rio on Tuesday night at NAB. If you were at the Super Meet last year, it's going to be in the exact same place. It's just going to be called Faster Together this year. But Michael Horton's going to be there. There's still going to be a raffle. There's still going to be all the same people, and then a bunch of new ones that you haven't seen before.
It sounds like there's all kinds of things happening in shared storage and things to learn for people that want to learn more about the products and tools that LumaForge has available. Where can they go on the web?
You can come right over to LumaForge.com or go over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/LumaForge, and we've got a ton of educational material there too.
That website is all one word, LumaForge, LumaForge.com, and Sam Mestman is the president of LumaForge. And Sam, thanks for joining us today.
Larry, thanks as always.
Here's another website I want to introduce you to, doddleNEWS.com. DoddleNEWS gives you a portal into the broadcast, video, and film industries. It's a leading online resource presenting news, reviews, and products for the film and video industry. DoddleNEWS also offers a resource guide and crew management platform specifically designed for production. These digital call sheets, along with their app, directory, and premium listings, provide in-depth organizational tools for busy production professionals. DoddleNEWS is a part of the Thalo Arts community, a worldwide community of artists, filmmakers, and storytellers. From photography to filmmaking, performing arts to fine arts, and everything in between, Thalo is filled with resources you need to succeed. Whether you want the latest industry news, need to network with other creative professionals, or require state-of-the-art online tools to manage your next project, there's only one place to go, doddleNEWS.com. Jordan Winkelman is a solutions architect for Quantum. As such, he designs high-performance, scale-out storage infrastructures for media and entertainment workflows. Hello, Jordan. Welcome.
Hey, Larry, thanks for having me on tonight.
It is my pleasure. Solutions architect is an unusual title. What do you do at Quantum?
In the enterprise storage space, there's usually a person who listens to the customer's needs and builds a customized solution that meets their specific workflows. And so I'm an architect who designs those storage solutions for media entertainment customers, as well as those in other vertical markets like life sciences and oil and gas seismic exploration and surveillance. So we cover a lot of different markets, other than just the media and entertainment world.
Well, for tonight, let's stay focused on media entertainment, and more specifically, let's focus on smaller work groups versus enterprises. How would you describe the products that Quantum creates for that market?
Well, Quantum creates storage platforms that are shared storage in what we call a scale-out SAN. Think of it as taking a RAID, and if you need to grow, adding another like-sized RAID, and that doubles your capacity and your performance. And we can do that nearly forever. So what we allow is for customers to start small and grow out their solution as their needs change, such as upgrading from HD to 4K or 4K to 8K. Meanwhile, maintaining a single disk that all of their end users can share, whether over a high-performance protocol like Fibre Channel or over a traditional NAS protocol like SMB or NFS.
Well, one of the things that I was noticing as I was wandering around Quantum's website researching this segment is that Quantum makes a big deal out of its support for StoreNext. What's StoreNext?
So StoreNext is our shared file system that allows us to scale near infinitely. It was designed originally for high-performance media workflows and big files like, satellite video and things of the like. It allows us to develop these scalable infrastructures, and it worked so well that about 15 years ago, Apple actually licensed it and called it XAMPP, even though it is the StoreNext file system. And so they wrapped a pretty wrapper around our tool and sold it with the Xserves and the Xserve RAIDs. And so every Mac user actually has StoreNext on their computer already.
Well, is StoreNext something that would be used in a high-performance editing environment, or is it better used for storage of completed assets?
Actually, it's for both. So we have both a high-performance file system for video editorial, where you can scale from just a few users up to hundreds, all on the same big disk. But we also have a built-in archiving system that allows us to write data down to tape libraries like those that Quantum sells, or into the cloud, or into a variety of different disk formats, or whatever you want to store the data on. And so it allows us to reduce the long-term costs of a customer's archived data by allowing them to move those assets down to a low-cost storage like LTO, which has a $20 a terabyte price point. Additionally, we have integrations into pretty much every asset management system out there, so that you can search the archive via whatever your chosen asset management system is and retrieve that data back online to be edited by a whole team of people. Very easy to get access to your data that's no longer online.
Is StoreNext something that we can use separate from Quantum storage, or do I have to have a Quantum box to be able to use StoreNext?
I would say that it's easiest to use the Quantum box because we provide a server and the storage environment. There are customers that use other enterprise storage platforms under StoreNext, but traditionally today it's usually Quantum storage from top to bottom.
And go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you finished your thought.
I was just going to say that we provide a full package solution with support from top to bottom all the way down into the clients, and it's just easier when it's part of a solution that it's a known value.
One of the other new boxes that you've come out with is using a protocol called NVMe. And Tom Coughlin earlier in the show was explaining that NVMe is a way of talking to storage to make it work a whole lot faster. What's Quantum doing in this regard?
So you had some great questions for some of your earlier guests about, is NVMe going to replace RAID? And what Quantum is actually doing with NVMe today is building RAID systems on top of NVMe attached drives. So NVMe is basically an extension of the PCI bus inside your computer. And each NVMe drive can, we'll say, do something like 3 gigabytes per second. Most of your traditional RAID controllers today were designed for hard drives. And as the new flash technologies have come out, the RAID controllers have actually been the bottlenecks. So Quantum has developed a new system that allows us to act as a software-based RAID so that you can get around the bottlenecks of traditional RAID controllers and make use of the very powerful Intel Xeon processors to give you a near infinite amount of performance based on the number of NVMe drives you have. So if you look at the SSD that has maybe an NVMe interface in most MacBook Pros today, those can go a couple gigabytes per second, depending on which version you have. Well, we'll take 24 NVMe drives, give you RAID on top of it, and give you in the range of 20 to 24 gigabytes per second read and write in one small disk platform.
But how are you going to connect it to be able to get that kind of performance?
So we use what are called block protocols, whether Fibre Channel which is a single cable that goes 32 gigabits, or a newer 100 gigabit Ethernet protocol using RDMA or remote direct memory access that allows you to team those cables or those connections together and get the aggregate performance even into a single workstation. We did most of our performance testing with a single server achieving 20 plus gigabytes per second.
That's the new fabric that Tom was talking about, being able to connect via 100 gigabit Ethernet to deliver that kind of performance to an individual workstation.
Correct.
That's amazing stuff. Are you going to be showing this new device at NAB?
Absolutely. We are going to be demonstrating this device, and typically we have uncompressed 8K workflows that we're doing in the booth so that customers can see what you can really achieve with multiple uncompressed 8K streams running on the same system.
Uncompressed 8K, you're going to have to, that will just leave my jaw on the floor. That's amazing. Where can people go on the web to learn more about the products that Quantum is creating?
So we have our traditional website, which is www.quantum.com, which has our entire product portfolio. But we also have www.storenext.com, which is STORNEXT, which is very tuned and focused on the media and entertainment market.
Very cool. And Jordan Winkelman is a solutions architect for Quantum. And Jordan, thanks for joining us today. The website is storenext.com and quantum.com, and we'll see you at NAB.
Thank you, Larry.
Take care. Bye-bye. You know, I was just thinking. For most of my life, I viewed network television and, to a lesser extent, feature films as the ultimate in video production. They were the standard against which I judged all other programs. And indeed, in today's world, network television is creating some amazing work. But for the last several years, I've also taught a university course focused not on filmmakers or professional videographers, but on engineering and business students who want to improve their communication skills in order to get a job in business. In each of these classes, I discovered there was a balance. I wanted to explain and teach the techniques that professionals had developed over the years to create successful promos, ads, and programs, while some of the students just wanted to learn enough to get by. Their mantra was, why do we need to learn this when we can be successful on YouTube without knowing any of this? And that is a hard argument to refute. Some YouTubers generate tens of millions of views and millions of dollars. But not all of them. Not even most of them. Then, tonight, Sam Mestman, president of LumaForge, said something that clarified this issue for me. The pro video market, Sam said, and video as a medium is exploding. Everybody is doing it now. It's required if you have a business to have high-quality video. And that is the key. Competition for customers and eyeballs has moved definitively from print to video, video on websites, video on social media, video on traditional media. No one reads anymore. For any business to be successful, they must communicate effectively, clearly, and powerfully using moving images. White papers are read by geeks. Videos are watched by the world. For my students to succeed in the world today, they must master visual communication skills. It is no longer nice to know. It's a business survival skill. Content, creativity, and quality are the touch points to success. Just as with my students, video professionals need to keep hammering the point that business success today relies on powerful visual stories. Stories that capture the hearts and minds of customers. Yes, there are challenges in our industry, but a lack of audience is not one of them. As Sam said, the world of video is exploding. Our job as visual communicators is to harness that interest and remind potential clients that their business success rests on leveraging high-quality video and communication tools, simply to keep up with their competition. Creative visual content creators, and that means us, are more critical to business success than ever. You don't need to be a filmmaker to change the world. You only need to know how to unlock the power in the moving image. And that skill belongs to all of us. Just something I'm thinking about. I want to thank our guests this week: Jim Malcolm with HumanEyes, Tom Coughlin with Coughlin & Associates, Larry O'Connor with OWC, Sam Mestman with LumaForge, Jordan Winkelman with Quantum, and James DeRuvo with doddleNEWS. There's a lot of history in our industry, and it's all posted to our website at digitalproductionbuzz.com. Here you'll find thousands of interviews, all online and all available to you today. And remember to sign up for our free weekly show newsletter that comes out every Saturday morning. Talk with us on Twitter at DPBuzz and Facebook at digitalproductionbuzz.com. Our theme music is composed by Nathan Doogie Turner, with additional music provided by smartsound.com. Our producer is Debbie Price. My name is Larry Jordan, and thanks for listening to the Digital Production Buzz. The Digital Production Buzz is copyright 2019 by Thalo LLC.